Welcome back to Tax Talk with Hey Hey, where we offer simplified tax planning and mentorship to help 6 and 7-figure CEOs ditch the daily hustle by achieving financial independence from your business by increasing your purchasing power and diversifying your source of passive income. Through financial mentorship, realistic goal setting, and simplified tax planning, without having to hustle for the rest of your life, with the guarantee of the optimal roadmap to move you towards your desired time freedom.
Welcome back, everyone, to Tax Talk with Hey Hey. I am your host, Suhey Piedra with Prominence Business. We're located here in Glendora, and today I have the pleasure of having my sisters with me, Cruz and Brisa. We're doing this on Zoom to, again, have all of us in one location at the same time. Zoom is pretty cool for that. So say hi, girls.
Hello.
And we're actually just chit-chatting about when we're going to go visit Cruz and when we're going to go to Vegas again, because here we're having gloomy weather and Cruz is having nice warm weather. Are you guys still having monsoon weather, or is it just warm?
No, lately it's just been hot, like warm.
Brisa just wants to go gamble, huh, Brice? You need to talk for podcast.
Yes, I want to go gamble.
Brisa's the one that disappears like in the middle of the night, huh? Where's Brice? And she's like at the nearest casino.
Yep.
So anyways, today's topic we're going to be talking about, and we want to share our story of hiring. When we hire, what worked, what didn't work, what we're still working on, and just our experience in general, because we've had a lot of clients that have struggles as they begin to grow, or they're at that point where they hire us to help them with a lot of the bookkeeping, the accounting stuff, but they still need help with all their day-to-day work. And hiring has always been something that is just troublesome. How do you hire somebody to come in and support you? For a lot of us business owners, what makes us an entrepreneur is the fact that, in a sense, we're controlling. We can do it all. We are the type of people that we will figure it out. And what that has done is that we end up with everything on our plate. I'm very guilty of that. I will let you know that I have hired, individuals to come in and help us, assist me, maybe even a receptionist to answer phones. But I like the way I answer the phone better. I like the way I email clients back. I like the way I answer the questions. I like the way that and so before you know it, is like I have hired somebody to just sit there because I still want to do it all. So how do we learn to let go of the control or the idea that, yes, I could do it all? Nobody said I couldn't. I can, but I shouldn't have to. And this is why we hire help, is for them to come in and support us. And now I need to allow them to support us, right? I know Cruz's biggest thing was getting the things out of her head into processes, right, Brisa? I mean,
Yeah.
that was a big challenge. Before you know it, Cruz is still doing it all. And we have support, and yet Cruz is doing it all. So share a little bit about, the beginning and the struggles that we had, Cruz, when we first realized we needed Brisa to come in and help.
Yeah, I mean, for me, we're like a little bit of like, we like to do it all. And how before, when we first talked about it, it's like we have our own language. So I understood what Suhey needed without even her having to tell me what she needed. And I knew what I had to do. Trying to hire someone else on board and teaching them. I don't consider myself a teacher. I couldn't teach because I know what I wanted to do. I know how to do it, and it's in my head. And I always found that way. Well, it's just easier if I do it instead of telling you how to do it. So do something
like
else.
A mind reader, huh?
Yes.
We need to hire a mind reader.
Yes. It's like, I don't know how to teach you what I was doing. Well, I didn't at that point. So I had to learn how to do that. But for me, that was the biggest struggle. Struggle is just, I know how to do it. I want to do it. And I'm doing it myself. And it's done faster without me having to tell anybody. And, I get it done. So, but again, always working, always doing something. And that's when we were like, okay, maybe if we bring Brisa on board to help us with that process, she'd be able to do it. So Brisa did come on board, and she was the same way, because I was like, you don't understand what Sui just said? Like, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Because I understood what Sui said. And Brisa's just sitting there looking at me like, what? I was like, I got it done. Don't worry about it. Well, she's like, how? And I'm like, I don't know. I just did it. And, even till not too long ago, that was still a struggle with me, having to tell you guys everything that I do for the clients, because I just do it. And I just know how. So yeah, but he's like, had to come in and just alleviate that for me. And it feels good. It feels good to have to learn how to do that. It's a process. You got to let go. It feels great where the little things that you don't have to do and someone else is responsible for. So that helped a lot with telling Breeze how to do it. And she just sat here and watched me do it. I honestly didn't tell her what I did. She had to come.
I was just your shadow.
But I think if you recall, Cruz, that I don't even know if we hired Brisa or if one day she said, I'm going to go help you guys. And then before you know it, she's like, oh my gosh, you guys need a lot of help. And
Yeah.
like, we do, because we live in this chaos world. And here comes Brisa and she's like, oh my God, you guys need help. And I'm like, oh, I know we do. But like to even think of adding another person was just more work on my plate that I couldn't really handle.
I don't think at that point, if Brisa didn't come on board without really wanting to come on board, I don't think me and you would have been able to hire somebody to help us, because we would have been running through the same situation. Now, hiring just a receptionist, and that's all she would have been doing, is sitting there answering phones, but then the phones would have been transferred to us because we wouldn't be able to tell her how to answer the phone or answer the question at that point. Now that what we've learned to this day, it's a little bit different, but we had to learn that. And again, I didn't have to do it because Brisa did it.
Yeah. But yeah, Brisa, do you remember that? I think you started as a part-timer with us and then transitioned into a full-timer. And then our biggest thing was, and I mentioned it in previous episode, is where's Brisa, right?
Yeah.
And where's Brisa? Why isn't she working? And it wasn't that her work wasn't being done, is that she works organized and not chaotic. Yeah. And again, for podcast people, she's like over there squiggling her fingers and making fun of the fact that we're all over the place. And we are, and that was our norm. And she would be like, my stuff's done, so don't worry about where I'm at, but it was the whole thing is like, I wanted to see her in chaos like we were in order for me to consider her working. Mm-hmm. And I had to understand that there was other ways of working and being more efficient with your time and being able to go home early or come in late or take the day off. And it didn't mean that your work wasn't getting done. And for me, I did not understand that concept until Brisa was like, look, this is how I work. And all my work's getting done and I'm working more efficiently. And I'm just like, how is that possible? But in reality, when Brisa, when you came in, it was part-time, then you transitioned to full-time. And then now you're still full-time, but you take time off, certain days off with your husband because he doesn't work a regular job.
Yeah.
So we just we added more staff, right? And you just recently came back from shadowing Cruz and all her assignments. How is it that you see, and then you're able to put things into process and you're able to teach others? Because Cruz and I, this is still foreign.
Right. And I think it's because of how our personalities are, which is why, the prominence is working, is because I'm more of the paper, schedule type person, start in A and in Z, and you guys are like jumping, everywhere. But I think that's where it's been helped us a lot. I've always been a big organizer. At all the, the last employee that I had, I was setting up all of their employers to be organized and everything. But I think that's kind of where just my personality is. So I find it easy when I came into prominence, I was coming in like, in the evenings to help you guys out. And I would just see piles and piles of mess. It's like, okay, Chris, tell me what this pile is. And she's like, just leave it alone. I know what it is. And, and it's like, well, I don't, or Suhei does it. And that's kind of where I started, was everybody needs to know what everything is or where everything is at. And just moving from there forward where, the emails, I've never been a receptionist myself, but when, you guys put me as that, well, now I had to learn that, but it didn't come hard because it was, answering the phones and just making sure that this goes here and then here and then here, right? So it was just following these steps. So when we had the opportunity to bring somebody on, because now I was wearing too many hats because I took a lot from you guys. Now I had to hand it to somebody else. Well, I found that easy because I had already put it in place for myself. So now it's like, okay, now you follow my steps, so, and again, like going back to the whole coaching thing, that helped me a lot as well, but in different ways than you guys, because I would hear it and I would put it in place. I would hear how they told us to set yourself a calendar and put yourself in there, put your lunch in there, because we wouldn't have a lunch because, we would just keep working. But when I heard that, I'm like, well, duh, we do need a lunch. So now I put a lunch, put a break, put a time to go walk. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And so the coaching helped me in different ways by putting all that together. And even like when it came to our personal lives, the same thing, okay, I want to take this day off. Well, guess what? Now I have to either put myself to work here a longer day, or, it's just balancing it out. And so when it came to hire, I just handed it off. Like, here you go. This is what you have to do. And I have to train and watch what they're doing. But once I'm like able to see they're good on their own, let it go. And that I have always found that easy. Let it go, because I trust them. I took the time to make sure that they are doing it. And once I'm like, okay, they are doing it, I can let it go. I don't have to be like doubting them ever, and if it ever gets left behind, now I know it's like, well, you were supposed to do this. Why aren't you doing it? Now that comes, more of the management type thing. But I have just always found it easy to let things go because I trust it.
But talk a little bit about that, because I think that for me is the hardest, not just because of my personality of trying to hold on to everything and be controlling, but finding the person to be able to trust. Like you, when you came, not only did I trust you because you were my sister, but, I kind of knew your strengths because I know you. So it was easy for me to bring you on board and for you to give you and trust you and give you work and let things go to you. But to others, like, talk about that. How do you find the other team members that you found? Because now we have a great team. How was that process of finding those team members that fit? Because it's not easy.
Yeah. I mean, it was difficult because I do like to micromanage, and I've been told before I like to micromanage, and I don't want to be seen as that person. So I would step back and just kind of give them a task and then see that it's done. And I'm like, okay, little by little, earn their trust in doing it. Not just all at once, of course, it was just a little bit at a time. And then what I did learn, I think it was from coaching or something, where you can't stay quiet. Oh, it was Hello 7 that taught me a lot, where you can't just let things go. Like, let's say something is not done. You can't not say nothing, because guess what? This didn't get done. Now the next thing's not going to get done, So you have to speak up. And I battled myself a little bit there because I've always been told like I'm too harsh in my words, So I was scared of being too harsh, not wanting to come off that way. So that did battle. I remember I did battle a little bit on that. But once I started like, trusting myself that I could do this, or even like write it down first so that I can make sure that it's not coming off harsh, and then, put it out there. But that was a little bit of a struggle. But yeah, it was just when we would have somebody, or something that didn't get done, you have to speak up. You can't let it go.
Yeah.
And I think it's all a learning. We've gone through this evolution of learning how to run a business. We've always mentioned we're big believers in coaches. And I met a coach, and she talked about personalities, matching personalities. She talked about where do you fall in a personality chart? And I'm like, what does all this personality stuff mean? Right. And she goes, well, you talk about it. She goes, you say you and Cruz are so similar. So your personalities are the same. And then Brisa's different, but she balances you up. She goes, have you ever looked at your personalities? And I'm like, I have no idea what this is. It was kind of cool though, when we took the personality tests, and it's kind of like your love language, right? It's kind of like a lot of people have heard about what's your love language and what's your spouse's love language. Well, it's the same thing with the personality tests at work, is what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? And so when we discovered what our strengths were and why we can work in this area of the business a lot better than Brisa can or Cruz can, is because I'm working in my zone of genius. I'm working in my strengths, right? But I have weaknesses. And that area is the area that I don't want to work in. It's the area that I continuously, I don't want to say fail, but that I'm just not that strong in. And therefore things fall through the gaps, or they're not as organized, or whatever those may be. And so here comes Brisa with her strengths, and she fills in my weakness, right? And so for me, obviously, is organizing. Everything's in my head. I'm not a good process follower, or putting it down on processes. But here comes Brisa with her strengths, which those are some of her strengths, and she fills in my weakness there, right? And so then that's really cool, because now between Brisa and I together, we've just become a little stronger. Yeah. And then we did the same thing. Cruz did the personality check. So what were her strengths? Her strengths were literally making it happen, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm like this dreamer. Cruz makes it happen, but Brisa makes these amazing processes for Cruz to make it happen. So it's like, oh crap. Now between the three of us, prominence just got even stronger, right? Yep. And so when we were ready to hire other individuals, those personality tests were really guidance as far as where we needed to find somebody to fill what. Did I need to find another Suhey? Did I need to find another Cruz? Did I need to find another Brisa? Or did we have gaps that we needed to fill? And so when we did that exercise, we did it as an office, right? As an office staff, because our employees played and everything, and we all took a test. But it was kind of cool to see where we were missing, I think we were missing, what was it, a woo, or we were missing somebody in the customer service area. Yeah. And so we're like, we know what we're missing. And what are those traits? What are those strengths that those individuals have? So that the next time when we interview somebody, that they have those qualities, or they have those strengths, those abilities to fill what we need in the office. So it was a lot more with a purpose, I guess.
Yeah.
Yes.
And again, through coaching, my coaching's like, why are you doing all the interviewing? Brisa should be doing the interviewing. But then it's a task. It's still a task. I was hiring people I liked, which meant they were probably like me, a mess. But I liked them because they were cool, And so I was like, shoot, I'm hiring the wrong people. And then Brisa comes along, but we don't know that. You were doing the same thing. You hire based on what you like, not on this personality test, because that's not how hiring processes work. But then my coach is like, no, you need to hire people through an agency, because you bring them in and they start working, you get to see how they work. But if they don't fit the mold, or they don't fit the gap that you have, they don't have the strengths that that you need, then you can easily call the agency and say, hey, this person's great, but they're not working out for my office, so I need a new person. So it was a lot quicker to turn and find the person that was going to fit what we were looking for when we started working with an agency. Would you agree, Brisa?
Yeah, it made the hiring process early, because they ask you, what is it that you're looking for, right? So I was able to give them a list based off of that personality thing. And so that made it easy. And then when we would get somebody, they fit, perfectly, but it gave me a relief that if I didn't like something, or if it just didn't work out, it gave me a relief that I could be like, I'm sorry, agency, get me somebody else. So yeah, it didn't give me as much pressure to make sure they're going to work, because if not, I'm going to have to go through the firing process.
Yeah.
And that
And
was the whole thing, right, Cruz? Not
yeah,
having to deal with all
that's
that
what
paperwork.
really helped was because when we were doing it ourselves, you know, Suhei took it upon herself to start doing the interviews. And then when we found out, she just was trying to get it done. So then I took on the responsibility so she could focus on what she had to do. And it was a phone interview. So that was time out of my time. And then trying to qualify them to come and meet Brisa and Suhei. And it's like, why are we going through all this process? We don't need to, something's not working. And that's when we, you know, the coach helped guide us. And then the people we were hiring, Suhei liked people like her. I like people that were like me. And Brisa liked people like her. But we already fit that. We already have those strengths. So we were missing people that were in our weaknesses. And we didn't know what those were at that time either. So finding out what we were missing. And then we started finding people that fit those, that was their strength. And that kind of filled in our circle. And that's why the staff that we have now works really great. But learning that, it was just mind blowing to me because I think, you know, like I said, I don't trust people. I wouldn't be able to hire anybody. Or if I didn't like what they did, I was like Breeze, I wasn't saying anything. I'd just be like, oh God, now I got to do it myself.
Yeah.
So I'd fix it and I wouldn't tell them what they did wrong or teach them so they could fix it, you know, and next time they wouldn't do it wrong because I just wasn't doing it. It was taking too much
And I think
time.
as an employer, that's the worst thing that we could do is just stay silent about it. It is frustrating. And then we all want to do it ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Because again, that's our personality. We can do it all. We can do it ourselves. Yes, I agree. And I will tell every single business owner out there that yes, we could do it ourselves. Nobody says you can't. The thing is, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You should prioritize your time where you get paid the most, right? Where your time is the best use. And then put yourself first, meaning if you have to come in a little later because you're not a morning person and you like working later, or if you want to leave early because, you know, you worked a long day or whatever the hours that you do have or whatever your priorities are, to put those first and let your staff, which you are paying for that time, do what they're supposed to do. Utilize them to their maximum. And I had a really hard time with that with, for example, I've mentioned before, emails, right? I wouldn't have answered that email that way. I would have answered it this way. But the client is happy that they got a response. They didn't care that I didn't, you know, I don't know, dot this I, cross that T, or whatever. They're not even upset about that. Or that I would have wrote it in 2 paragraphs instead of 1 sentence. Do you know what I'm saying? They're happy that they got an answer, that they were replied to, that they were taken care of. That's all the client cares about. And I'm over here worried that I would have put that in 2 paragraphs instead of 1. So the client is not even looking at those small details. Are they important? Not really. What they really wanted was the answer, right? And so I had to learn to let those things go, because the only person having a hissy fit or the only person that was trying to waste time and energy on it was me.
Yeah.
And so that
I think when you had brought that issue up, I mean, I told you just express it to me and we'll get it done, you know, and that goes back to us, you know, keeping it in. It's like, if it really bothers you that much, just express it, and guess what? We'll better it. Yeah. And so that's something that, you know, is big on, and if you, and not just your own partners, but you as the owner, express it to your staff. And guess what? If they're happy there and they want to stay there, they're going to do it your way or close to your way. But if that's something that internally I've also battled, is like, is it even something that I need to express, or can I just let it go because the end result is still a good one? It's just not my way.
Yeah. And the time, like, how much time did that let you focus on what you had to do and be better at, you know, communicating with the clients and doing what you had to do? I know with me, that was huge, you know, letting go of little things that I was doing, thinking I had to do it and I couldn't teach someone else to do it. Took time away from where I really had to focus. Now I have really time to focus on the client, on what I'm doing, my numbers and things like that. So I didn't realize that my time is more valuable spent somewhere else than answering emails, you know, or doing certain things. And the important ones are still, you know, we still focus on that. But not everything. Do I have to do everything? No. We teach others to do what we want them to and how to do it. And that leaves time for me to focus on what's really more important, you know.
So one of the biggest goals as a business owner, at least for me, now that I am where I am and I've gone through trainings and coachings and life experiences, is that prominence survives whether I'm here or not. That I could take the day off and know that my clients are taken care of, that the business is doing good, that, you know, everything's under control. And before, Cruz, if you remember when we first started the business, if I wasn't doing it or you weren't doing it, nobody was doing it, right? Because there was no way that anybody could come into our desk and pick up where we left off. Because like Brisa said, it was just a pile of stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody could really figure out what we needed to do that day because it was not in order. I could walk in and sit at my desk and be like, oh, I got to work on this and I got to work on that. But it was all in my head. And now there's a calendar, there's a schedule, there's places, things go in certain places. And so staff comes in, they know they got to call these people for this. They know they have to follow up for that. They know they have to schedule these people. So everything's organized in a way where they walk in and they know what they have to do. And that is very important because now I don't have to go out there and tell them what they have to do. They know what they have to do all on their own with those processes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then
Huge
it's, I mean,
already.
not just in our own business, but I mean, it goes also to how we handle the business, which is our marketing. I used to do the postings on our Instagram.
Yeah.
And now it's like, okay, that's taken away from me. So now we're going to have to hire somebody else who's even looking a lot better anyway. So why try to do it yourself, you know, when you're not a social media person or you're not a
professional
marketing person. Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, so hire that out. And that's something that I've learned through you guys, which was, yeah, I wanted to save that little bit of money, but it looks horrible. Like I go back to that stuff and it's horrible compared to what it looks like now. Or,
Brisa, Cruz, what was the book that we told Brisa to read? It's Who, Not How, was it? Right? Because you need to find somebody, you need to find the who that can do the job and not figure out how to do the job, right? And I think, again, entrepreneurs are they're just so guilty of saying, I can figure it out, I can do it. And yes, you can, but the time and energy that it takes, is it really worth spending? Or can you just make the investment of hiring the professional that does this for a living?
Mhm.
And you can focus your time and energy in what your strengths are or what you love to do. Now, I know there's a lot of business owners out there that may say, well, I'm just starting out. I cannot afford to hire a marketing team, or I cannot afford to hire a receptionist or whatever. That's where the numbers come in.
Exactly.
What did I tell you, Brisa? Don't tell me how much it's going to cost me. Tell me how I can afford it. How much more do I need to make in order for me to be able to bring that person on board? In order for me to hire this professional. And Brisa will be like, okay, well, it's going to cost this much. That means you got to go get, 2 new clients or whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, I really want that. So let's go out and get these 2 new clients that now we can afford to go get this other professional or this service or this new employee or whatever. When we have a goal in mind, it's a lot easier for us to go reach it. I'll never forget how we started. Cruz always had a Post-it that said, we need 5 new clients today. We need 2 new clients this week. We need this. Why? Why would you do that, Cruz?
And for us, it's just having the goal in mind, because we weren't trying to go backwards. We're not trying to see what we can get rid of to get what we wanted. It's what do we need to get what we want. Yeah. So we always had this number up, and it's funny because it was started small. We didn't want to we were like, don't do it too big. We were afraid at that point. So then we started off small, but we hit that number quick. And then we're like, okay, now we're here. So let's jump a little bit higher. And now they're huge. And that's just how we work. But that's how we teach our clients to think as well. When you bring us on board, it's not we're talking about hiring. So you want to hire someone, this is what you need to do, hire somebody, as far as financial numbers, you're at this level. get here, and then you can bring someone on board.
And nowadays, I mean, there's virtual assistants, there's you can do part-time, you can do, I've heard people bring on board from like Upwork or, Fiverr or wherever, or people from internationally, people that work like in the Philippines or India or wherever. So it's like things have definitely evolved and changed. But maybe that's the first step you have to take in order for you to see how doable this is. Because the amount of time that they open up for you to go after the bigger client, or the time it saves you and opens you up to go and, nurture those leads that you've been wanting to call back, but you're just so busy that you haven't been able to. So it's like you've wasted time that you could be making money on little tasks that are not money-making tasks.
Yeah.
So we, through our coaching, have learned focus our energy on money-making tasks, right? Because those are the ones that bring in the money so that we can have the stuff that we have, right? And to work in our zone of genius, right? Because that's where our strengths are. That makes it easier for us. And then the other one is not really focusing on, limiting our expenses, but focusing the energy on making more revenue, right? The energy is still the same. I'm going to spend just as much energy, time on trying to save versus going out and making more money. So my motto is figure out how to make more money. Because I tell Brisa all the time, do not limit my spending. Tell me how much more money I have to make so I can continue to spend.
Yeah, and the one key thing that I've learned was also keep revisiting, because things change. Suhei's brain changes every month. So it's like keep revisiting what it is that they want or what you want and make it happen, because it does change a lot. And let's say you're in a comfort zone. Well, now you're stuck in this comfort zone, and it's like you can't keep growing when you're there because you're comfortable. Just revisit it and see what you need and then move on. Move forward with it.
Yeah. And that's why the quarterly meetings are so important, right?
Yeah.
As business owners. And, we have a partnership here, right? It's the three of us. But if you're solopreneur, truly a solopreneur, it's still important for you to schedule the time to review those numbers, whether it's with yourself, maybe you have a spouse, but it's important that you really take the time to review those numbers, because that's what's going to help us and serve us as the guidance of where we need to go, where we're going, what's costing us, where's everything, where's the money, the majority of the money going? Is it being well spent? We still are in that startups area, and we want to make sure that our funds are being utilized to the best that they need to be so that the business continues to flourish. And now that we've been in business, 5 years, we still do it with different conversations, different goals in mind, but we still want to continue to grow. And we still want to, we only want to keep what's working moving forward. And this is the opportunity for us to cut what's not working or adjust it, or, whatever it is. What is that return on your investment? And when we sit down and we review these numbers, that's when we get to really look at the financials, and they tell us what it is that is, what has been working and what hasn't been working, right?
Yep.
And I think that's a huge help for like our clientele, because they're so busy working the business, they don't think about, and when we make them meet with us so we can review this with them and set these next goals, they appreciate that, because no one else would do it. I mean, when we first started, you and I said we didn't, because we were so busy working the business. And not till the end of the year, we're like, okay, run our numbers. And I'm like, oh God, I know I got to catch up on our bookkeeping, because we're busy working for everyone else. And then until, it's like, no, this is important. We preach it. We got to do it ourselves. And then that's when we will start doing it quarterly or monthly. We do it on a monthly basis, and we see the things we need, where we're at, the growth, and then set our goals. Our numbers change, we reach them. They got to keep growing. Don't forget, just because you reach the goal doesn't mean you're done. Now let's set a new one and move forward. So I think having those meetings, having the right team in place is very helpful.
Yeah. Hiring is a headache. It's not easy. Hiring is costly. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you more than you're paying them because you have now HR that you got to deal with, payroll taxes you have to deal with, employee handbook that you have to deal with. So there's definitely other things that come into play. But again, you hire them through an agency, they help you. If you have a payroll company that helps you with, process the payroll, they can help you too. So there's a lot of resources out there that you can begin to use in the beginning while you're still small to help you get these things in place so that, it all works. I was in a meeting last week with a group of professionals, and this was the topic. They were complaining about the fact that they couldn't find good people to work for them, that they're constantly firing and hiring. In tax season and tax world, it's crazy to keep your employees because tax season is so hectic that they bring in all the staff, and then tax season's over, they slow down, and then they let go of all these people. And some people stick throughout the year, some people don't. So there's a lot of turnover in the tax world. But at the end of the thing, I told one of the gentlemen that was in the meeting, I said, you complained this whole time about all these people that you hire and you fire because you can't find the right person. I said, but the only common denominator in all of this was you. Said it very respectfully. And he started laughing. He goes, are you trying to say I'm the problem? I said, I didn't say that. I'm just saying, think about it. You've hired so many. You think you're telling me that all of these people are bad people and they just didn't fit? But the only thing that they had in common was you. So come on, really think about this. And then he's just he goes, yeah, you're telling me that I'm the problem. And I started laughing. I said, look, all I'm going to share is that I am where I am because I did a lot of work on myself. I had to understand that not everybody speaks my love language. Okay, not everyone speaks the same business language as I do. Not everyone has the same drive that I do, and I'm not the best at organizing things. And so I had to understand what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are for myself. I said, but then once I figured it out for myself, it kind of all fell into places, understanding what other people and what their strengths and weaknesses were. I go, so I really encourage you to work on what is it that, what are your strengths and your weaknesses, and hire somebody to complement you, instead of hiring possibly somebody like you and you guys butt heads and they don't do what they're supposed to do because they're just like you in a sense, right? So that was a very interesting conversation that we had, but it's work that has been pointed out to me by others, and then me being willing and open to understand that, hey, maybe it's me who's the problem, and I need to learn, and I need to grow, and I need to let Brisa do what she does, and I need to let Chris do what she does. And so, like Brisa said, trusting those individuals in their areas of expertise, trusting the process is definitely, in my opinion, what has allowed us to grow so fast, so quickly in such a short time. And what is allowing us to continue to grow prominence and strengthen it. We're not perfect, but we're working on making our business better every single day. So with that, we will end this Zoom meeting or this podcast. And thank you guys all for joining us and listening in. Please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at prominence.services. And our website is prominence.business.com. Thank you guys. See you on the next one.
That's wrong.
Prominencebusiness.com.
So if your mindset is ready to excel to the next level and you want to give up the multiple hats to a business who will support you, then schedule a call with us today. We can be reached at 626-825-8249. Please give us a review and share us with your friends and family.